Welcome everybody, Scott with Decoy Pro here, and today I'm going to be talking to you about decoy head position. So something that was confusing to me when I first started goose hunting is, what's up with all the different positions that the goose heads are in, and how do I effectively set them up when I go goose hunting. So I want to talk to you a little bit about that today to help you understand the different positions that you can use. So one of the most common positions is the feeding style head, and it's basically just the head that makes it look like the goose is feeding. So and in my recommendation, I would have the majority of your decoys be this feeding style, because as approaching geese come, they see that the geese out in the field are actually eating, and they know that there's going to be food for them. So I would say typically around 60 or 70% of your decoy spread should be this feeding style. And again, that's the ones that just have the head down, look like they're eating whatever happens to be in the field at that point. So this is the feeding head style. Another style that I want to talk to you about here, another one is the sentries. So these are the geese that when you look out in the field, you'll notice that there's usually at least a handful of sentries, which are geese that are kind of protecting the rest of the flock. So while the rest are eating, there's going to be a handful of these that have their heads up, they're looking around, they're paying attention for any predators that might be approaching, and just making sure that the flock stays safe. So with these here, you do want to only, my recommendation would maybe be about 10% of your decoys are these the sentries, just because that's what's natural, that's what looks natural out in the field. But too many of them, if let's say all of your geese were sentries, as approaching geese come, they would think that's out of the ordinary, and that would mean that that entire flock is at attention, and that means that there's probably some type of predator or something that's out of the ordinary that they're kind of scared of, and so they're all paying attention. Where when they're comfortable and most of them are feeding, you're only going to maybe see 5 or 10% of your decoys, or of the actual real geese being these sentries. So that's what would be my recommendation with your spread, is maybe about 5 to 10% of your decoys should be the sentry geese, and that's the ones that just have their head straight up and they're looking around. The other couple styles here, we've got just kind of a rester here, and this just has kind of its neck sitting back, and it's just kind of resting, not sleeping, but it's simply just kind of resting and just hanging out with the rest of the flock. So the majority of your decoys are going to be, like I said, 60 or 70% of the feeders. About 10% will be the sentries, and then a combination of resters like this, and then we also have kind of actives, which the head is a little bit more straight up, and they're just kind of walking around from one area to the next. They're not sleeping, they're not eating or anything. And then we also have sleepers, which I don't have with today, but a sleeper decoy, it would actually have its head kind of tucked back into its body here, and that's where it would kind of sleep. So again, my recommendation here as you select your decoys is going about 60 to 70% feeding decoys, right around 5 to 10% of your decoys should be sentries, and then the final 20% of your decoys should either be a combination of actives, resters, and even some sleepers. So that's just kind of a good rule of thumb, or just a good recommendation to get started, and then you can always tweak from there based on what you're seeing with success with your decoy spread. So hopefully that helps you as you get going with your decoys, and I'll talk to you in the next video.